only Stephen A. Smith, and your facial expressions are priceless, Stephen A. Tell me this, do you feel like you owe Baker an apology, maybe his wife too?
The answer would be hell no. Let me start by saying this. Baker Mayfield, really, the wife? Really? Really? That's where we're going? As a man that was raised by 5 women, I know better. And plus, I'm incredibly, incredibly respectful. So I would like to say that when it comes to Miss Emily Mayfield, I would love to say that I loved her tweet because I love to see a woman who loves her man so dearly she wants to stand by him and support him, and major props to her. Not that she needs any props from me, but you know what? That's why she's Mrs. Mayfield, because she's something special to stand by her man like that. Congratulations, and congratulations to him for having a wonderful woman like her. Having said all of that, I will say this: far be it for me to take the position that I took. This is a person that did not have an impressive record against winning teams with winning records, if you recall, Mrs. Mayfield. So I would say that as number one. Number two, over the previous 4 weeks, he was completing 57% of his passes. I think it was like 2 touchdowns and, 1 or 2 turnovers. He was relatively pedestrian. When you look at the multitude of weapons that he has available to him, a stout running game in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, Jarvis Landry and those boys can ball, and obviously they look a little bit better without Odell Beckham Jr. because he doesn't get to focus on them. The defense, they really get after the quarterback, courtesy of Myles Garrett. Their secondary isn't too shabby, and Kevin Stefanski is pretty much known for operating around Baker Mayfield and basically saying, to use Baker Mayfield's words, don't do anything stupid. Don't give the game away. Don't blow it up. If that's your definition of success, I can live with that. What I'm saying is what Bart Scott said. Considering the bevy of weapons that Baker Mayfield has available to him, if this dude is that dude, and he plays the way that he played yesterday, because he was sensational yesterday. He really, really was. It was very impressive. He plays that way. I agree with Rex Ryan. Cleveland Browns got a shot to win it all if Baker Mayfield looks that way. But none of us expect him to. None of us expect a repeat performance. None of us expect him to throw 4 touchdowns in the first half, being the first quarterback for the Browns since Otto Graham in 1951 to do so. Nobody's expecting that from Baker Mayfield. Nobody's expecting Baker Mayfield to throw for 330 plus yards and complete about 90% of his passes. Nobody's expecting that from Baker Mayfield. We see that. Then the Cleveland Browns are a different franchise. They're different anyway right now, because bottom line is they're about to get to the playoffs, and major props to them and Coach Stefanski for that. You've seen the upgrade. There's a difference. There's levels to this between him and Freddie Kitchens, and we understand that. But if you want to sit out there and say one game basically eradicates any argument that has been made against Baker Mayfield, you go right ahead. I'm not rooting against the brother. I wish him luck. I love his personality, those sound bites, the things that he has to say. If he backs it up with his performance on the field of play, Baker Mayfield is a headline grabber, because we know that brother can really, really talk and he can really sing. We get all of that. Plus, the brother could dance too. Let's give him credit for that. But the point is, we don't really expect that from him, which is why I said what I said. I stand by it. And if he continues to do that, then I will commit my mea culpa. But 1 week doesn't get that done. My apologies.
Stephen A. Smith is no stranger to the influence the media can have on the sports world. Dan Orlovsky is finding that out too, because when Dan took the L on
Max, wrong segment.
Carson Wentz last week.
No, we're talking about the Browns. We're talking about the Browns, Max. We're talking about the Browns.
Carson, you know what? Coach benched Wentz. He thought, if Orlovsky says that about Wentz, maybe I can bench him. The point is this, Stephen A. Baker is showing me a lot. And it's not like we're sitting here, any of us, making stuff up about guys. I was a big supporter of Baker's for a while, and I tried to stay with it, and I pointed out 4 head coaches in basically 2 seasons who could succeed under that situation. And most guys are coaching dependent. Like Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Deshaun Watson. There's some guys who go, that guy's going to be great. I don't care where he is. Now, Belichick turns Brady from great to the GOAT, right? Andy Reid turns Mahomes from great into the Super Bowl champ, MVP, all that stuff. But most guys actually need coaching to go from bad to, like we saw it with Nick Foles, right? We saw it with Tannehill, and Baker fits into that category. Give him the right coaching and the right team around him, and he'll look good. We saw it at Oklahoma. He's throwing to wide open receivers. He looked great. But because of that, he looked more accurate than he really is, faster in college than he was in the pros, obviously, against slower defenses, right? He was cocky. And you want a quarterback who has some cockiness in him, but it was too cocky. And what the NFL has taught Baker, and give him credit for learning the lesson, not being so hard-headed that he didn't make adjustments, emotional, mental adjustments, right? He wasn't going to accept a loser's fate so far, right? Let's see what happens. But give him credit for learning that humility. Stephen A., remember when he responded to you earlier in the season, and he was like, that's those guys' jobs? They like that. I'm not worried about that. I thought to myself, that's a good answer. That answer shows maturity. And what did he say? What was it, yesterday, right? He talked about, I ask myself before I do something, would an idiot do that? And if the answer is yes, then I don't do it. Baker Mayfield is showing growth as a quarterback because he's showing, he's taking the humility that the NFL has taught him, and he's using it to his advantage. I'm impressed by what I see. Obviously, Stephen A., you don't owe him an apology. If anything, he owes people like you and others in the media who were hard on him, Ryan Clark and others, a thank you because they held him accountable.
Max, hearing you say that quarterbacks need a lot of moving parts or variables around them to play well and have success is fascinating right now. Listen, what's happened with Baker Mayfield is there's a lot of clarity and confidence in his game, right? Like, there's been a lot of up and downs, but Kevin Stefanski has come in and given him confidence that he's the leader of that football team. And he plays with a ton of clarity right now. Stephen A., I would argue that this is bigger than just 1 week. I would tell you that over the last 4 or 5 weeks, this has been really starting to show itself. This is 5 straight weeks without an interception from Baker Mayfield. That's a third of the season, essentially. That does not happen by accident. And the biggest growth and the biggest step forward that I do think we need to acknowledge is there are some play action pass shots that there's those chunks that are wide open. Sure. He's been fantastic on third down. That everybody knows is like this money down. This is the down that quarterbacks earn their paycheck, so to speak. He's averaging or completing 65% of his passes on third down alone over the last 5 weeks. That's really good football. And so this isn't an apology thing. It's now understanding that Baker Mayfield's got the right people around him. He's got the scheme that fits his game. He's playing at a high level. He's doing the one thing he can't do, give the football away. But the reality is this is the first time it was his biggest win and his best performance. This is the first time this year that it's happened in that setting where you're playing a plus 500 team. They're going to play the Steelers again. What's going to happen in that game? That's where all eyes will be on. If we will see Baker from yesterday when they play the Steelers, then we're having a different conversation, right? Then we're having a different conversation. But for right now, this was a huge step, and it's been weeks in the making.
Dan Lorlovsky, Max Kellerman, Molly. Yesterday was the first time that Baker Mayfield threw for 300 yards all season long.
Right.
Number one. Number two, they lost a game. I'm looking at the schedule here. They lost a game to the Las Vegas Raiders on November 1st. That was their last loss. A game in which he completed 48% of his passes and threw for 122 yards. Dan, since that, hold on.
40 miles an hour win in that game.
Hold on. Since then, he beat Houston 10-7. He beat the Philadelphia Eagles. He completed 60% and 54% of his passes in those games. And he beat Jacksonville before Tennessee yesterday. Mrs. Mayfield, I mean, hey, send them tweets all day. I'll take it. I will not respond with any negativity whatsoever. I respect the ladies, especially the wives, okay? But respect. I won't even challenge you. Bring them on. But the rest of us, is this different than stand by your man. Absolutely. That's why he married that. I'm telling you, she's special, okay? But on the rest of us, can we stop? I mean, can we stop? Tennessee is just all of a sudden, they fell apart for a game. Okay, we got all of that. There's some games on this schedule coming up against Baltimore, against the Giants. Let's see what he does. All I'm trying to say is, so now we need to stop. Baker Mayfield has arrived. Max Kellerman, you said, I'm very impressed giving your psychoanalysis, and I appreciate some of your points there, Abby. But the bottom line is this. I recall just a month ago, you were like, I'm sorry, I apologize. I think it was about 2 weeks ago. Max Kellerman, you were like this, y'all, man.
Yeah, I said he's average.
I don't know. He just doesn't have
now
it.
He's saying, quarterbacks need coaching. They need good offensive line play and weapons around them. And so it's very subjective with who needs that and who doesn't.
This is the bottom line. He's got offensive line protection that's also run blocking. He's got a great running game. He's got receivers, and he's got an excellent coach scheming guys open. All those things are true, and it's all helping him. He's benefiting from it. But he is also playing well. You can watch him.
Okay, Max, but that's not what you said.
We're playing well.
All right, Max, but that's not what you said. Right. You didn't say that 2 weeks ago. You said he doesn't have it.
Come on, Max.
Right. We're doing this later, guys.
Guys,
we're getting into this later.
And now he's playing above average.
We're discussing this later.
This is Mayfield.
Ryan Clark's going to join us for that. All right. Dan, good times always. We'll check you out on NFL Live later. Thank you so much for being with us. The Browns have the Ravens and